I'm John Buhler, pretending to be Kurt Cobain, staff writer, fansided.com. I'm joined today by a man who attended Juilliard, graduated from the Harvard School of Business, traveled quite extensively while living through the Black Plague, and had a pretty good time doing it too. He has seen The Exorcist 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every time he sees it. Cody Williams, Dr. Alan Grant from Jurassic Park, content director, fansided.com. I think you're qualified. What do you think?
What do you think of this? I'm doing good, man. It's good to be here. This feels incredibly stupid, but I'm very happy that we're doing
I
it.
was sitting there and I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to laugh when I see Cody on Zoom and he's going to be like, oh my
100%.
God. Yes, today is Halloween. We are doing an extra spooky pooky episode here. It's going to be Beetlejuice themed. And for Just Like Novocaine, we are going to be doing, actually, hold on. For Antonio, we're going to Cody's neck of the woods for Wyoming, New Mexico, because we got to pay a dinosaur a visit by the name of Bronco Mendenhall.
That's right. He's definitely petrified bones. There's no doubt about it.
I'm so tired. I felt like Bronco was Brontosaurus. I couldn't figure that out. And we had to look up what Bronco Mendenhall's favorite band is. We thought it was going to be some like Zach Bryan, Luke Bryan, Eric Church. No, it's Bob Marley. So
Of
we're
course
gonna.
it is.
It's of course it is. Wonder what Dr. Alan Grant Kurt Cobain thought about Bob Marley.
Dr. Alan Grant's never heard a bit of music in his entire life. I can guarantee you that.
While I don't think Kurt thinks that Bob Marley is a poet and a prophet like Anthony Kidd is, I think he'll have with some of what he's having there down in Jamaica. This is false.
100%.
Well, it's showtime. First and 15. These aren't my rules. Come to think of it, I don't have any rules. Let's do some do Haas or do Haas to start the show off today.
Let's do it, baby. I don't have any rules.
I love the Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice voice is just the best thing ever.
It just sounds like he ate like 16 Big Macs before every day of filming and like he's just like struggling to breathe.
Big Macs and Newports.
Yeah. The diet of champions.
Trans fat and fiberglass.
That's right, baby.
I don't know if this game's going to be involving a lot of trans fat or fiberglass, but we got a big one going on there in Happy Valley this weekend between number 4 Ohio State and number 3 Penn State. So really good do Host here, or do Host, do Host or do Host, do Host. This is a very 90s episode right now because it's very 93, but Ramstein was very 97, I think.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And then Beetlejuice was what, 89, 91, something like that?
89, yeah. So
that's basically the 90s. We'll consider it.
They didn't have cell phones then. They didn't care. They just had
Yeah, I
answering
mean, most people
machines.
didn't see it till the 90s until it was in Blockbuster. Come on.
No, not at all. Some of my best nights of my life were when I wasn't trying to have the best night of my life.
That's right. Okay.
But these guys might be trying to. Do Host or do Host? Is Ryan Day under more pressure than James Franklin entering Ohio State, Penn State?
So this is a tougher question than it might seem. I ended up on Duhast with one S, but I feel like James Franklin, the pressure's mounting with each, big game loss that he takes. He's 3-17 against top 10 ranked teams in his career. He's had a lot of struggles, and like this is the year you're supposed to be able to get past that based on what this Penn State team was coming into this. Obviously, the Drew Allar injury complicates that. It does. My read on it is he is going to play in this game. James Franklin's just playing that really close to the vest right now. But I do think Ryan Day is under more pressure when you get down to it because the one thing you could say about Ryan Day prior to this year was he won the regular season games outside of Michigan that he was supposed to. And so this was supposed to be the year, okay, you get past Michigan. But what if you go into the Michigan game with 2 losses or 3 losses if you were to lose to Indiana? That's an entirely different ballgame that's really going to ramp up the hot seat talk after all the money that the collective spent to build this roster. I think situationally, like Ryan Day made this even more pressure packed on himself, especially with the loss to Oregon that he already has on their ledger already. So when you factor all that in, this feels like a game that could really And it feels crazy to say because of all the wins that he has racked up, but at the end of the day, it's not up to Ohio State standards. And like this could be a game that like makes or breaks Ryan Day's job.
I'm right there with you, and I'll add a little bit more. Duhast 1S. For this game, Ryan Day is under more pressure because Ohio State has the one loss on the season to Oregon.
Mm.
Yeah, it's by a point, but why don't we just slide like Goo Goo Dolls in the 90s, like Will Howard, man? But oh my God, that made me laugh so hard inside. I could. I've been waiting to do that for a while.
It's good. It's good.
It's good. But yeah, my logic here is like if you lose this game, then basically you're on playoff life support. You have to beat Indiana because if you
Mhm.
don't, you're 9-3, and then you're basically in the same level of you're competing with essentially Alabama for the last spot in, and I don't think you'd get it over the Crimson Tide,
Yeah.
depending on if Alabama beats LSU, they're pretty much going to be in at 10-2 because they're not losing to Auburn. But
Yeah.
you don't want to go from being like the 6 or 7 seed to like 13.
No, 100%. And like, I think we're all kind of in the headspace with what we feel about Michigan at this point, that the Ohio State game against Michigan is a win for Ohio State. Are we sure? I'm not saying Michigan's a better team than Ohio State because they're certainly not. I do not think Michigan's that good, but Michigan does have a mental edge over Ohio State right now. Michigan does have a little bit of, okay, come and do it. Like, come and beat us because you haven't proven that you can. None of these, no one, like, no senior on Ohio State's roster has ever beaten Michigan. No one on this Ohio State roster has ever beaten Michigan as a member of the Ohio State Buckeyes. So, like, there is a mental block there. For as good as I don't think Michigan is, they have gotten better. They do look like they have found at least a little something. Beating Michigan State, that's not a bad win. Like, that's a game we both thought Michigan was going to lose, frankly. So this team is getting better. And like you're not just putting yourself in danger for 9-3 if you lose this game if you're Ryan Day. You're putting yourself in danger of 8-4 and completely missing the playoff. Not even being like a conversation piece. Like maybe if you like just miss out, you could sell the idea of, oh, we got screwed. Find me 12 better teams in the country than us. There's not one. Yada yada yada. Paint that picture. But if you're 8-4, there's no picture to paint. You're not that guy.
First off, the guy saying that quote is Jack Sawyer 1000% because that
A
man's
hundred
just walking
percent.
bulletin board material.
100%.
What NFL team do you think he's going to go to either next year or the year after that and just say ridiculous things in the locker room? Like, what's a very
I feel
he's in a
like the Baltimore Ravens would make a lot of sense. Like, I feel like the Ravens always have someone, most of the time, multiple people who are just willing to just fire off at the mouth and just say whatever. I was gonna say the Detroit Lions, but I feel like Aiden Hutchinson might like
yeah, he'd be like just like
institute a mutiny basically and just like try to kill Jack Sawyer if he did it. So,
we will throw you into the Detroit River if you talk.
yes.
But in terms of just like talking and not backing it up, that's very Steelers and that's very
Mm.
Saints. So that's also possible.
Saints makes a lot of sense. Saints is a really good one.
He'll go in there. He's like, I don't think Cam Jordan's a Hall of Famer. And Cam Jordan's like, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? Matt Ryan walks in there holding his ass. He's like, I think he is.
My
My
bad,
bad.
guys.
And then Matt Ryan and Cam Jordan go out and get like Waffle House and hang out because they're buds.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's all good.
So I was also thinking about this. You don't leave College Station to go 8-4. I mean, you could just stay there. But that's what Ross Bork decided to do to replace
Yep.
Gene Smith in the crazy game of 80 musical chairs.
Yeah.
That ends up with Pat Chung going to Washington. But I will add this. I will say Duhast, two S's, the right A's are the most pressure long term. It's all on James Franklin because you
Hmm.
have the game's at home, you're undefeated. You're ranked one spot ahead of them. If you win this game, the chances of you going to Indy are pretty high. I don't think you play Indiana later, and I don't think you get
No.
Oregon either. So like you're pretty much going to the playoff regardless. It just remains to be seen if you're going to Indy or if you're going to like the Rose Bowl. I think in that situation is the one as the top two seed. But like that one time, like Danny O'Shea that one time,
The one time.
the one time that James Franklin beat Ohio State was really cool. But if you
Hmm.
can't do it now in this situation, I don't know if you can. I think you can also probably lose another game and become, the driving academy, and you're also going to lose Andy Koltonecki or Tom Allen after this year, probably both of them three. So, like, come on.
Come on. I mean, this is the time to do it. This is the time when I would say this is the first time in the past at least 3 years that Penn State has had the coaching advantage over Ohio State. Like, I think Jim Knowles, Tom Allen, I'm going to call that a wash, honestly. Like, and that's out of respect to both of them. That's not disparaging either of them. I think those are two of the better defensive coaches in college football right now. But I think Chip Kelly, what I've seen from Ohio State this year has not impressed me. It's like, I went into that Oregon game thinking Ohio State's going to be able to kind of just unleash hell on them because they haven't shown anything. Turns out they might have been showing stuff and they just don't have that juice, which is crazy given the level of athlete they have on this team. The other thing for James Franklin is you not only have this coaching advantage, but you have some on-field advantages as well.
Yeah.
Ohio State's without their two starting left tackles. They lost Josh Simmons for the year, then his backup got hurt and is out for this game. With the pass rush that Penn State has with Abdul Carter and the guys up front, if you're not able to get after Will Howard, who hasn't been much of a scrambler this year, one of the reasons why I'm not high on what Chip Kelly has done is he's not using Will Howard's legs in the ways that I would probably do that, considering what he did at Kansas State. But if you're able to get pressure on him, Will Howard's been awful under pressure. Like you have the matchup advantages to really take this game and put it in your back pocket. I I think it is a lot of long-term pressure because like short term, even if Penn State loses this game, they're still going to make the playoff. Their finishing schedule is home against Washington, at Purdue, at Minnesota, home against Maryland. That's like the bottom of the Big Ten. Like that's not, I'm not worried about that for Penn State at this point. So like you're going to go 11-1. You probably won't go to Indy, but you'll probably get like the 9 through 11 seed in the playoff. Like congratulations, you're in there. But just making the playoff with another big game loss is going to put a bunch of heat under James Franklin's seat.
Yeah, it also puts up the whole situation like, could you lose to Boise State in the first round potentially? Not that, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's how the matchup's going to work out, but like, I mean, they could be
It-
the five. See, that's still within the realm
yeah.
of possibility. God, that would be Alex Kirshner would just lose his mind if that happened.
He might not breathe for like a week and a half.
But you're absolutely right there. The coaching is about even. Like Franklin and Day are about even. Knowles and Allen are about even. Coltonecki's rising, whereas Kelly's falling, and they're basically at the same sort of intersection here. And yeah, but I was thinking about this. So the game's going to be in Happy Valley, and pretty sure LeVar Arrington's going to be there on double fisting Long Island's.
Oh, 100%.
And I don't think he ever got to be sitting live from Eric Crouch's couch, but when he sits down there, I think he would say to like Brady Quinn and Jonas Knox and everybody else there at Fox Sports Radio, in heaven, there wouldn't be dust and everything, right?
TBD. Who knows? Maybe that's what heaven is just constant dusting.
Haven't done this in a while, and this is actually the perfect time here. We're going to give our updated Heisman Trophy ballots, basically the three guys we'd vote, and who else we'd suspect would be getting there. Entering week 10, there are six candidates that have like a shot at it. Like,
Mhm.
so I think the most recent odds, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but the order would be the favorite right now is Travis Hunter out of
Mhm.
Colorado. Then two would be Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. Three, I think, is Cam Ward out of Miami. Ashton Genty is four out of Boise State. Cade Klubnik is five at
Yep.
Clemson. And then Carson Beck's at like 3,500 or 4,000 at Georgia. But like again, Clemson and Georgia have the schedule and the opportunities to really climb up. So like they're not out of it. It's just not looking
Yeah.
great, Bob.
No, it's not looking great for them. I do think when you come down to it, I think it is a four-man race for the actual Heisman Trophy. Now, finalists, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen there, but it really is a four-man race. Our colleague Scott Rogus was off this past Saturday, so I had to do his Heisman rankings. And as I was going through it, I was like, I mean, we'd rank the top 10, and I was like, 5 through 10 are interchangeable, and you could put them wherever, and no one's going to quibble with it because at this point, they're ostensibly not going to win the Heisman Trophy. Like it would be extremely difficult for that to be the case.
I didn't even look at like who seven was. It's probably, I don't even know. It's like after that point,
I want to say
uh,
it's like Quinn Ewers. Hold on, I had it up earlier. Let me tell you.
it's either Ewers or like Nussmeyer, someone like that.
Yeah, and I think Nussmeier had a chance. Oh no, I apologize. Little odds movement, and this actually makes more sense. It's Shador, which Shador's
Okay.
had a really good season, really good numbers, and Colorado obviously is still alive for the Big 12 title. So, yeah, I think that's warranted for sure.
So essentially, let's throw Shador in there. Like of those seven, that's probably people who'd be the finalists, but like the top four is probably going to win just because Klubnik, Sanders, and Beck just have too far to go.
Yeah,
Crazy stuff would have to happen, but that's college football for you. So
yeah.
who's number one with a bullet on your ballot? Pun intended. I would have would have liked that song.
Who could say? Who could say? I'm going with Travis Hunter. And it's twofold for my reasoning. One, he's starting to put up the numbers that I think he needed to put up as a receiver and as a cornerback to really like make this happen. He's the leading receiver on Colorado right now with 750 yards. He's gonna have a 1,000 yard season as a receiver. That's while playing the majority on the snaps on defense as well. So that's pretty impressive. Already at 8 touchdowns. So like if you have a 1,000 yard 10 season while also playing cornerback, that's a pretty good feather in your cap. But then on the flip side of that, he has 2 interceptions and 6 pass defenses. Like he's playing really well as a cornerback as well. So like if you're talking about the recipe needed for a two-way player to win the Heisman Trophy again, this is it. This is a better resume than what Desmond Howard was putting up when he won the two-way Heisman Trophy. Like this is, or excuse me, Charles Woodson. I apologize. Desmond Howard, punt returner, sort of two-way.
Yeah.
Regardless, as a two-way player, like this is more impressive than that season. He's doing more on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. So like when I look at that, I see Travis Hunter as someone who's really separating himself. And let's be honest, Colorado being successful this year is definitely a feather in his cap in this race.
That certainly helps. I'm maybe not quite there with Travis Hunter as you are. Number one for me is Dylan Gabriel, just
Okay.
because, again, I always get this wrong. I'm like the worst Heisman voter ever. Excuse me. You dress like Kurt Cobain, and you end up having like the insides of Kurt Cobain. It's just pain.
All pain, baby.
All pain, no gain. I ended up going with Dylan Gabriel because, well, one, he was my pick to win the Heisman to start the year. He's quarterbacking the best team in the country right now. I don't think anybody's going to argue for anybody over Oregon. Maybe if Penn State goes out there and crushes Ohio State, but at that point, Ohio State's got 2 losses, and Georgia's probably not going to lose to Florida. So, but maybe Penn State at some point. I would say that like of the Heisman leaders on the leaderboard, he's the only one that's kind of got that Heisman moment. I think it's that like
Mhm.
rushing touchdown to beat Ohio State at home. That's the one that stands out to me. He kind of carried the team on his back in a very crucial moment. That's why I have him at one right
Okay. So I do not have Dylan Gabriel in my top three. So
now.
that should tell you something. But Ashton Genty is who I have it to. Look, I understand the game against UNLV was pedestrian by his standards. He still had 128 yards and a touchdown, brother. He's still going to rush for like 2,500 yards this season. Like it's still going to be a ridiculous rushing season. He's probably still going to get into like the 30 touchdown range, which is just absurd. And at a certain point, like I think that Boise being what they are this year is also like going to work in Ashton Genty's favor. Like as it gets more and more real that okay, it's pretty much Boise controlling their own destiny to be the G5 representative in the college football playoff. The Genty love is just going to increase from there. Like we saw it really high early in the season and it kind of died down. But as we get closer to the postseason, I think it's going to build back up. And I think it's going to, I don't see him slowing down because UNLV is the best run defense that they're going to face. He still had 128 yards and a touchdown. That's probably his floor at this point. So I have a really hard time not seeing him being in the top three.
I do have him in the top three, but my number two is Cam Ward at Miami right now.
Okay.
I feel that right now he's been the most steady player across the
Mhm.
board. Miami's undefeated. Miami's doing everything that they need to do. His signature game was against Florida at the start of the year. He's got big opportunities ahead of him. Obviously, he's looked good versus Florida State. You got Duke coming up. You got Georgia Tech. You're probably going to be playing the ACC championship game against Clemson, Pitt, or SMU. So
Mhm.
the opportunities will present themselves. Big brand, big helmet, NFL draft prospect, probably a first round pick. I don't know if he's two, three, four, or five, but he's one of them.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel that like what he's done in his conference has been a cut above even Klubnik, who's playing pretty well right now. So I got to put Ward at two.
No,
You got three.
100%. I have Cam Ward at 3. And so like that feeds in nicely to that. But for me, it was on the third spot on my ballot. It was splitting hairs between Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel. Where I came down to it was Miami's not undefeated if Cam Ward's not their quarterback.
Right.
Oregon might still be undefeated if Dylan Gabriel, if they have a quarterback, if they have another good quarterback in there. Like if you put a good quarterback at Miami, that team might have 2 losses at this point, quite frankly. And you talk about Heisman moments, it might not be as high profile as beating Ohio State and Eugene, but the finish against Cal, the finish against Louisville, like the finishes that he's put together, honestly, week 1 against Florida and how dominant he was in that game in a rivalry matchup. Like Cam Ward has racked up some moments where you look at him and it's like, okay, this is clearly one of the best players in college football who is elevating a program who's needed elevating for quite some time at a position where they've struggled to find answers, quite frankly. And so I think that Dylan Gabriel, it's a great season, and I'm not trying to disparage the kid. I say kid, he's probably closer to our age than most of these guys. But
Yeah.
but I do think that like Dylan Gabriel has had a good season, but I also think a lot of that is a construct of Oregon. And on top of that, the one thing that really does stand out to me when I'm splitting hairs between him and Ward, beyond everything I've just said, Gabriel's had a little bit of the turnover bug. Like the turnover numbers are a lot higher than they are for Cam Ward. And obviously Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty don't really have to worry about throwing interceptions. But like the turnover numbers are something that stand out to me. Like he threw 2 picks in that Purdue game. And like that's a game you should be stat padding, not adding to your turnover numbers.
I think that's fair. I have for three, I've got Ashton Jeanty. That's my third. That's the third guy at my ballot.
Okay.
The thing that I think separates Jeanty from Travis Hunter for me is I feel that like there's at least one game out there where Boise State doesn't win it without him. That's Georgia Southern. That's the first game of the season. That's kind of
Yeah.
his big one. I think his other Heisman thing is like, okay, how well he looked versus Oregon.
Yeah.
Although, and then you also got the big win over UNLV, which I think helps. But again, the stats weren't quite there. You're kind of wondering kind of the level of comp. He's not this week's flavor of the week there. Maybe if he looks really good this week versus San Diego State, that'll help. My thing with Travis Hunter is like the two biggest games that Colorado has played, they've lost, like to
Hmm.
Nebraska and Kansas State. And I feel like just how I always view the Heisman, I think team record should be reflected in that some way. Like if there's not like a really great guy that's on a team with one loss or fewer, then you can give it to a guy who's putting up a bunch of stats carrying a team like, Jay Daniels was last year. Eventually I came around on that. I'm always a late arriver to that. That's just who I am. But it's like at the same point, I'm not quite there with Travis Hunter yet, but he can be. But he's very much, he's on my list of getting to New York. I would say that he's firmly going to get there at this point.
No, 100%. And the one pushback I'll have there is okay, the Kansas State game, if I'm remembering correctly, that's the game he got banged up in.
Yeah.
So like he wasn't as much of a factor in that game. So you can make an argument, okay, maybe one of the most important players on the Colorado roster because you lost to Kansas State in a close one too, when Travis Hunter was a little bit banged up. Nebraska game, he was basically the only player doing anything in that game. He had 7 catches for 110 yards. So like maybe the rest of Colorado wasn't up to playing Nebraska, but Travis Hunter sure as hell was. So like the fact that he played well in one of those games and then got hurt in the other, I'm not going to hold that against him. And again, there's a realistic chance that Colorado ends this season at 10-2, and that's well good enough of a record for him to get to the Heisman Trophy ceremony and win
Oh
it,
no,
frankly.
no doubt. Like it's just like he's got to have more.
Yeah.
The resume is not quite there yet. Like I can be convinced. I need like 12 or 13 data points to kind of make my picks there. But so would you say Gabriel's getting to New York too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Gabriel's going to New York. Like I'm not it's basically 3A and 3B, but there's only 3 spots on the ballot. That's kind of what it boils down to.
Right. And I guess like the last question before we move on, do we get a fifth candidate between Beck, Ewers, Sanders, or Klubnik? Does a fifth person make it there?
So I have a dark horse fifth candidate that I still think can make it, depending on what happens over the last 4 weeks of the season. And a little bit of extra in there. But I think Bryson Daly is really live to make this Heisman Trophy ceremony. I don't think he's in line to win it, and I think the odds reflect that. But I do think if you take Army to the point where they're 11-1 with a loss to Notre Dame as their only thing, he plays well in that game still, though. Doesn't like piss down his leg like Blake Horvath did for Navy. And he plays well in that game and is able to get Army into the AAC championship game and potentially challenge Boise State for that G5 spot in the playoff. If you get to that point, Bryson Daly's numbers are ridiculous, dude. We talk about Ashton Genty's rushing numbers. Bryson Daly leads the country in rushing touchdowns. Like he's ahead of Ashton Genty in that category. He's already rushed for 1,000 yards this season. He already has 6 touchdown passes. Like the dude is playing extremely good football for an extremely good football team. So like I'm kind of looking at him as kind of the sleeper lurking that I think could get there as the fifth person in New York. If it's not him, I actually don't see a fifth candidate getting there.
I see a fifth candidate getting here. I think it might be him. I don't think it's going to be Shedeur Sanders just because you're going to split the vote
Yeah.
with Travis Hunter at this point. I don't think Winnie Ewers can get there because he's missed games. But, even though, like, if he plays really well, there's an opportunity for them to, get the number 1 seed, if you will. The Beck and Klubnik component is kind of what intrigues me. Klubnik, if like he just outshines Cam Ward, maybe he takes his spot. I don't see both of them getting there.
Yeah.
And with the schedule that Georgia has left to play, if Beck plays his best 5-game stretch, there's an opportunity for him to get in. But it feels like I haven't seen anything up to this point that leads me to believe that he belongs there. But I think that like between Klubnik, Daly, and Beck, maybe one of them gets there.
No, it's definitely possible. Like I would say the least likely for me is Beck, just because like no matter what he and Georgia do over this 5-game stretch, like if you look at his numbers, they're just not there, in my opinion. And like I don't think Carson Beck has played awful in every game this season, but like you look at the win over Texas, he did not play well in that game. He threw 3 interceptions and no touchdown passes. And like when you start splitting hairs and talk about, okay, are you a Heisman finalist? Like that's going to be hard to vote for when in some of the biggest games of the season you didn't really deliver.
I just think it's interesting that like we may not get an SEC player to New York,
Mm-hmm.
and like with that, I mean Milrose kind of done the same sort of thing. Nussmeyer's had turnover, so has Dart. Ewers has been hurt. I mean, are you looking honestly at like Trevor Etienne potentially being the guy to go?
Yeah. Don't
It's
like
not.
that either, frankly.
No.
But
The Brady Cook for Hart. That's who needs to go.
the heart and hustle Heisman, baby.
And with the Hart and Hustle Heisman, coach, I don't think we survived the crash.
We did not.
We do more than shoot hoops and turn left. We can talk about the ACC being the league of consequence for this weekend. 3 really big games on the slate, including the signature game that we're going to be coming to you live after. Yes, we're not going to be coming to you live after Ohio State, Penn State because we have to work.
We do have to work, indeed.
But Pitt going to SMU is massive. Louisville going to Clemson. I got that one circled. Same with Duke going to Miami. So let's start with Pitt SMU. SMU's favored, and SMU's. I think all the pressure's got to be on the ponies, dude, because of that.
So I'm getting less excited about this matchup because injuries are kind of robbing us of what this game could be. Eli Holstein is still questionable for this game after getting banged up against Syracuse, which I don't know how that happened considering the team scored 6 pick sixes, but whatever. Eli Holstein's questionable for this game. Kevin Jennings also questionable for this game. But I think that's why SMU is favored because even if they have to turn to Preston Stone is a drop off, but he's at least experienced. And like Pitt, when they're going to their quarterback depth chart, not quite the same level of experience, not quite the same level of stuff. I think the one thing that stands out to me for this game, though, is, people are looking at what Pitt has been a lot of the games Pitt has been in this season, and they've been kind of shootouty a little bit. And then you think of Rhett Lashley and LSU or in SMU, you think of shootouts. Like that's just kind of been their brand for a little bit. I think defense might win the day in this one, and not just because of the quarterback situation. Sure, that's going to help. But I think even if the quarterbacks were healthy, even if the quarterbacks do play, these defenses are hella underrated. One of the things that really stood out to me diving into the numbers is that both of these teams on defense are some of the stingiest against the run and on early down EPA. So like you're forcing teams into a lot of third and long situations, which I don't really trust Kevin Jennings and Eli Holstein in third and long consistently throughout this game. I think there's going to be some explosive plays, but I do think that it's kind of a disjointed game is kind of what we're going to end up seeing is like a lot of stop start 3 and out type of stuff where these offenses really don't get into a rhythm, and I think defense really wins the day, which I'm sure Pat Narduzzi is going to be thrilled with a rock fight of a football game.
I mean, he's got his Fred Rogers cardigan on, man. He's ready to go
Oh
at
yeah,
Narduzzieville. Um, just to make sure we got clear. Did you have Ohio State, Penn State in JLN?
I
Because I
do,
did.
and I have this game in JLN as well, so
Same. What about Louisville, Clemson, or Duke, Miami? Just so we don't forget.
I do not have either of those, so I will make a pick here for
Yeah, I don't
those.
have I don't have either of those in there, but I have the first two. So yes, I would say with this game, like we saw what Pitt did to Syracuse. That was a statement win. That was like, yeah, Pitt's not a Pitt's back to being Pitt, like in a good way. Like
Oh
this is
yeah,
like that's a team where I'm like, yeah, they can make the playoff. They can maybe make it as an at-large team. I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. I will say though, like they still got to play SMU and then Clemson. So if you split both and you get to maybe you get to Charlotte. You may not. If you're 11-1, I think you got to put them in.
yeah, 100%. Like it would be it would be pretty egregious to leave an 11-1 Pitt team out. And it would also be pretty egregious to do that the year after you left Florida State out of the 12 team or out of the 14 playoff.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty bad look if you're the college football playoff selection committee.
And it'd be pretty egregiously 11-1 SMU out, who went 8-0
Hmm.
in conference play, and their only losses to potential Big 12 champion BYU or runner up. Like at that point, like
100%.
that's kind of why I've got this game in jail. And it's just like it's a game of consequence because like the loser's in a really bad spot, but like the winner, it feels validated. It's probably the best way I would say it.
No, absolutely. And especially like I think when you look at these two, the one thing that also stands out is like SMU has a little bit easier path after this. Pitt's finishing stretch is tough, man. So
Yeah.
like this could be a real game to like have in your back pocket if you're Pitt. Like I think like if you're talking about level of importance, I think it's more important for Pitt to get this one than it is for SMU. Like I feel like SMU could I don't know if their playoff chances could survive it, but in terms of like being in that conversation still being in the ACC conversation, they can lose this and still have enough chaos around them to potentially get there. Whereas Pitt, if they lose this game, they still have Clemson on the schedule. You lose to Clemson, like you're completely out of any of these
Yeah.
conversations. So I do think it's a little more consequential for Pitt to win this one.
So I was thinking about this. The loser of this game may not make the playoff, but you know both are going to make. They're going to make either the Pop Tart Bowl or the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I think Mayo.
I mean, honestly, that's just a win for the program, frankly.
Do you think Nardog or Lashley would take the Mayo? I think they both would. I think they would both
Oh,
do
I
it.
think they absolutely would. Yeah, like weirdly enough, I think Lashley would be a little more reluctant to do so, but I think Narduzzi would be all about it. Like I think
Mhm.
Narduzzi would just be like, "Yeah, you can put whatever on me. I don't care. Let's just go win the football game."
I've used worse conditioner than this before.
That's right.
Red Lashley's like, am I becoming shrimp cocktail now?
Just give me a shrimp cocktail. You can pour whatever you want on me, brother.
It's fine. Pour horseradish on me. Just pour vinegar. Pour
That's right.
sulfuric acid on me. I don't really care. Go ponies, baby. So,
Pony up.
pony up. Moving on to Louisville Clemson here. Clemson's been playing very well since the Georgia game. They're scoring a lot of points. They also really haven't played anybody who's worth a damn either.
Yeah.
Louisville might be worth a damn. And although the Cardinals are out of it, I still think they're pretty good. And I think there are one of the more tougher outs in the ACC. Just the luck of the draw of the schedule hurts them this year, whereas it served them last year. I think this year's Louisville team is better than the one from a year ago, but the
Hmm.
schedule doesn't reflect that.
No, 100%. Like it's definitely a tale of two schedules, quite frankly. Like that's what it comes down to with these two. Thank God I have these sunglasses on because this sun is just murdering me right
Yeah.
now. But no, I think the interesting thing for Clemson coming in this matchup is like you mentioned, they have not really played anybody, but one of the things that so I don't think Louisville's defense is very good. And I don't think it was very good last year either. Like their defense might have been better last year, but marginally. Like it's pretty much the same defense, and it's not a defense I trust, quite frankly. And so I do expect Clemson to be able to continue scoring with the way their offenses look, even if it is a jump up in competition. I am a little curious, how good is this Clemson defense? Because we know it's talented, we know what the ceiling should be, but this is a team that gave up 31 points to Virginia. This is a team that gave up 14 points to Stanford. Now it's 14 points, but it's Stanford. You
Yeah.
let Stanford score 14 on you in Death Valley. NC State, before they became a walking husk of a corpse, scored 35 on them. So like this defense has not been like a world beater to this point. So like I trust Jeff Brom and I trust this Louisville offense to dial some stuff up, have some stuff schemed up, and push this Clemson defense. And I wonder what Clemson is going to do when they haven't faced an offense that I think can really test this defense to the level that Louisville can.
You bring up a great point here. I always lean on you with the ACC stuff of it all. First off, Tyler Shuck's been in college, since the Black Plague.
100%. Him and Cam Rising, dude, they came in with their medieval armor and leather helmets, and now they're, modern college football. What a world.
You go from sacrificing chickens to sacrificing the remaining sinew in your knees. But
That's
either way,
right.
it's okay. I mean, you're 25 for a moment or the rest of your life. This is Edward Cullen was 17 forever, so
That's
just like Zach Efron.
say it out
Say it.
loud.
Say it. I want you to say it. Okay, I want you to say it, please. Say it. Say it. Just say it. But I think like if you make it a shootout, that creates more opportunities for Cade Klubnik to turn the ball over and
Mhm.
allows for Tyler Shuck and company to bring this game, possibly pull off the upset here. I think that's kind of the issue where like I would take Ward over Klubnik because Ward just doesn't seem to be a pick machine, whereas like Klubnik can do that sometimes. So can Beck,
Yeah.
so can a lot of people, so can Shador. The quarterbacks
Yeah.
this year are so can Gabriel. The quarterbacks this year are not that great, Bob.
It's a down quarterback year, which frankly, this I'm gonna derail us slightly just for a second, but with the conversation that's going on with Anthony Richardson about like, we are not high on Anthony Richardson. We thought it was all overblown because we saw what he was at Florida and like it was not a good quarterback. It was a ridiculously good athlete, but not a good quarterback. But the Colts are pulling the plug after I think 11 games. And like there's a big conversation going on in the NFL right now about giving these guys time to develop, giving these guys like the runway they need to develop. And with some of these guys that are going to be coming into the draft, they're still going to need pro development before they're ready to play. And I'm not sure that they're going to be given the runway that they need. You look at a Cam Ward, you look if Jalen Milroe were to leave after this year, like those are guys that we think are very talented and could be really good NFL quarterbacks. Like they have the toolbox and they have made the progressions with their quarterback play to be able to get there, but they still need a little bit more work. And you wonder if they're going to get that work. So it's interesting to see college football's quarterback play kind of take a dip while we're having that conversation in the NFL as well.
And they're like, so Beck and Milrow will have like a combined, like, well, not combined, but like individually, they'll probably have about 28 starts or so, give or
Yeah.
take, over the last 2 years. That feels like you have to have at least that because if you don't have that, you're not ready. They're both students of the game that both have a lot of talent, but it may not be immediate.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at Cam Ward and Shador Sanders, they've started a lot of games like Bo Nix, but it wasn't against power four competition the whole time. Where I
Yeah.
think
And I
that's how
mean, like the incarnate
that's
word offense, like is the
yeah.
most gimmicky S that I've ever seen. So like he was not playing quarterback at incarnate word.
And then with Gabriel, I mean, yeah, I guess he'd have enough, but again, like the stature and stuff, the injury stuff, maybe he has enough like Penix, but again, Penix is still biding his time behind Kirk Cousins, and I understand why because Kirk Cousins is throwing 8 touchdown passes a month of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's go, Dirty Birds.
You gotta
uh,
gotta get the Kirk Cousins love out there. But no, Kirk is playing well, which I was not sure was going to happen after what I saw in week one.
so get this. Apparently, they asked him about Halloween. So he's got like two young sons. They're like
Mhm.
their names like Turner or Paxton or something like that. They're like
Of course they are.
sick. They're going as like Avengers, and he's going as Obi-Wan Kenobi because of course he is. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go with the kids in the neighborhood. Apparently, like 3 doors down from him is Richard Seymour, like Georgia and Patriots legend.
Love that. Oh my God. I
Like
hope
he's
Vince Wilfork just showed up and is like grilling at the barbecue at Richard Seymour's house.
Vince Wilfork is barbecuing ribs. Richard Seymour's got a bounce house going. Yeah.
That's what we
Honestly,
need.
Wilfork and Seymour, that used to be a podcast. I don't even know if they're friends. They just need to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Who cares if you're friends? Just do it.
Who cares if you're friends? I don't even know if we're friends. We just do
We
it.
just do it, man.
And I don't know if Duke and Miami are friends, but like, especially, I mean, Manny Diaz at one point,
Manny
like,
Diaz is for sure not his friend.
this is the one. This is the one that I've got my eye on. Miami might lose. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's going to happen, but that's way more likely than Louisville beating Clemson.
No, 100%. I have my upset picks coming later today on fansided.com, and I can assure you that Miami will be on there. Clemson probably won't be. And even with this game being in Miami, that's a place Manny Diaz knows. Manny Diaz knows what he's walking into. He's going to have his team fully prepared for that. And then also, you look at what Duke has been doing over the past few weeks. They played horribly against Florida State, still won. And
Yeah,
granted, that's Florida State. Florida State's no good, but they still won that game. They played really well against SMU. Probably should have won. They went for the win, and respect to Manny Diaz for having the balls to do that. Like going at it, like we're going for two in overtime to get the win. Came up short. That's fine. You still played a ACC contender to the wire, to overtime. SMU had to come back in the fourth quarter to get to overtime. So like this Duke team has shown that they have some haymakers to throw. And frankly, how many times can Miami get haymakers thrown and get knocked down and get back up? That's the thing I'm worried about, particularly against a coach who is going to be expertly motivated to get this done with Manny Diaz.
look, Mario Cristobal. There's only one Chumbawamba of the Cumberland. That's Diego Pop. Yeah,
That's right.
90s man. I don't know what you thought. What did you, on the top of your head, what did you think Duke was going to go this year? They're 6-2 now. I think I had them 7-5 is about what I think I had them at.
Yeah, I was thinking like 6 or 7 wins is kind of where I had them. Like I trust Manny Diaz. I think you stabilized enough with Malik Murphy coming in at quarterback. Like he's not been great, but he's been fine enough to stabilize things after losing Riley Leonard. So like I thought that they were going to be a bowl team, but not much more. So seeing what they've done this quickly, pretty impressive. Quite impressive.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was a well-run program there under Mike
Hmm.
Elko too, and this isn't like Manny Diaz winning with Matt Rule's players like he's some Dave Aranda or something like that. I've got a joke. I've got a Waco joke I gotta say out there, but I can't say it on here.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah, I would say like I am still gonna pick Clemson to beat Louisville, and I'm still gonna pick Miami to beat Duke. But like, we'll learn a lot about those teams if they lose.
No, 100%. And I forgot we had to pick these games. Clemson. I'm going with Clemson to beat Louisville. Screw it, dude. I'm going with Duke. Give me the Blue Devils. It pains me to say I hate that school more than anything in the world, but I need to feel vindicated about every bad thing about I've ever said about Mario Cristobal. And also, I really want Manny Diaz to get the revenge game. I really want to see
Yeah,
that moment for him. And like it's not like we're looking at a mid-level coach who we're looking to get this revenge game. We're looking at a dude who's a good coach and got screwed at Miami, quite frankly. Like that's what happened there. And so I want to see Manny Diaz get that revenge. So hey, why not wish forecast it? Let's make it happen.
what's Duke's mascot's name? Is it just like the Blue Devil, or
I'm
does
pretty
it?
sure it's just the Blue Devil. Yeah, it's nothing. I don't think it's anything major.
Okay, I was thinking like it's like Sparky or something like that. But like you,
Sparky.
I mean, if he's left Cameron Indoor Stadium to go down to Miami and sweat, Miami Gardens, excuse me. Do you think like Manny Diaz will take his pitchfork and throw it at Sebastian the Ibis, but he'll miss and hit Mario Cristobal instead?
Okay, sorry, I was looking it up. It is the Blue Devil, just the plain Blue Devil. Apparently back in the day it was Latin for and it was like the Diables Bleu, but now it's Blue Devil. So yeah, we're just Blue Devils here.
Couldn't be creative.
No,
Like,
no.
okay, if the Blue Devil had to have a name, what would it be? Jim. Jim, Jim, the Blue Devil.
No,
Jim.
it'd be GYM Jim for
Yeah.
Cameron.
Yes. Slim Jim. Just wise.
That's
Slim
right.
Jim, the Blue Devil. How did, Is that triangle enough for you? No, it doesn't
Not
matter.
enough.
But I think we had enough there because a lot of people ignore the strange and unusual.
Mhm.
We are debuting a brand new segment today. It is going to be the Admiral Akbar. It's a trap game of the week. Yeah. Cody and I are really nervous for Indiana playing Michigan State for the old brass spittoon. Also, Indiana's got the best trophies, and so does Michigan State.
I mean, just the Big Ten at large, honestly. Like the trophies in the Big Ten just get really ridiculous. I think personally, like, I don't know, Old Oak and Buckets up there, but like the one that just gets me is $5 bits of broken chair between Minnesota and Nebraska, I think it is. And
Okay.
like $5 bits of broken chair. That's what they play for. Like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, y'all are just making us up at this point. And then you talk about making us up. Let's go to Illabuck, where you just have a
Yeah.
turtle representing the Buckeyes and the Fighting Illini. What the hell, bro?
Dude, Illinois is awesome, man. Like
Oh,
that's
I
my
love
favorite.
it, but
It's I think Illinois is my favorite trophy, and then it's Floyd. It's Illinois and Floyd.
oh yeah, we know Antonio's is Floyd because Bulldog.
The Bulldog. Illinois is also Bulldog too.
Oh yeah, of course, it's all Bulldog.
It's all Bulldog. That isn't even the right. Like, what is it? What's it? I'm blanking out. It's not species, but what's
Like
like? It's like a type.
genus.
Maybe it's a genus, but like, what's like the difference between a reptile and a bird or a mammal?
I have no idea. Classification. Let's just go real general there.
Yeah, clearly I didn't do very well in biology.
Yeah, this is not a science podcast.
No, dude, Bueller story time. So I was a freshman in high school and we were doing physical science, like the precursor to like physics or chemistry.
Yeah.
And we were combining like solutions to see what happens. And long story short, I got silver nitrate on my hands, so I just had like gray fingers for like a week.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah, I was just trying to blow it up, and my teacher, Mr. Teeters, is like, "What are you doing?"
Dude, his name was Mr. Teeter.
Teeters.
Okay, so we had a Mr. Teeter or no S, who was our driver's ed instructor at West Henderson High School.
His name is Harris Teeter.
Dude, talk about an old, like a name that we just don't see enough of anymore. Ours was Kent. Kent Teeter.
Michael Teeters. Yeah, there we go.
Michael Teeter.
Kent.
Yeah.
Kent, short for Kenneth. No, Kent. Clark Kent.
Just
Super.
Kent.
He's over there. He's like, make sure you drive safely.
Safely. 10 and 2, baby. He big fan of James Franklin.
Are we? I don't know. But we're a big fan of this game for the brass spittoon. Yeah, Indiana Michigan State's kind of like probably one of the better secondary rivalries, I would say, in the Big Ten. Like Indiana's number one's obviously Purdue. Michigan State hates Michigan, but that's kind of like little brother and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes, Michigan State's got one. Land grant with Penn State's the other one, and then Indiana, they hate Kentucky, I think, too.
Purdue as well. Yeah.
Purdue's their big one, and then Indiana. I'm trying to think, basketball, probably Louisville. They probably hate Louisville too.
Yeah, I mean Kentucky for basketball purposes, and that's kind of bled over into football. They don't play a lot in football, but like that has bled over a little bit. But no, basketball, that's like their, I mean, Indiana, despite what Coach Sig is trying to do right now, they are a basketball school at heart.
At heart, that heart's failing. It's not a good basketball school right now.
No, it's not, wildly enough.
No. So yeah, the old oaken bucket. What did we say we were going to put in there besides cereal? We would say something. The Floyd of Rosedale, the old oaken bucket. Oh, it's a crock pot. That's what it is. There's no crock pot.
The old oaken crock pot.
But I think the reason that at least I picked this as the upset game of the week, we're going to do this, the trap game, for the rest of the season, maybe even into the bowl season. We just think we figured we needed a new segment, and Admiral Akbar is a rebel. Honestly, why couldn't it be the Ole Miss Akbars?
I don't know, man. It should have been. Absolutely.
No, they got Land Shark Tony. Tony.
Today.
Tony. The mascot's just Lane Kiffin in a jumpsuit.
Yeah. Who else do you need if you've got Lane?
Who needs frenzy? You got Jesus.
Okay, Dabo.
This is the segment we decided to go off the rails on, but we're playing for a spittoon.
We are playing for a Splatoon, so like I think that tells you everything you need to know. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a trap spot, like rivalry game on the road in East Lansing. And the thing we've said about Aiden Childs and Michigan State this entire year is how much variance there is with this team, how high and how low they can go at any given moment. And like Curtis Rourke is supposed to be back for this game for Indiana, which obviously is a good thing for them. But I do think that like the one thing that Indiana still has not shown, and it's a credit that they haven't shown, a credit to them that they haven't shown this, but what does it look like when it gets hairy? Because they have not been in a hairy game. They have not trailed all year. What does it look like if you get into that moment, particularly if you're on the road against a rival in East Lansing? Things could get tricky, especially if Aiden Childs is playing well. Now, there's a world where Indiana picks Aiden Childs off 3 times in the first quarter and like this game's over before it starts. But there's a world where that's not the case, and we get the inverse of that. And Curtis Rourke isn't 100% healthy. The offense isn't doing what it needs to be doing. And Aiden Childs is playing the game of his life, where Indiana gets itself in trouble, and they're in a position they've never been in before this season.
Ooh, Childs things got easier.
That's right.
But it's also the Indiana boys on the Indiana Knights there with us and Tom Petty. But I was looking at this. So if we think Michigan State can actually win this game, they could win the rest of their games. They got a tough game versus Illinois on the road, but then they've got Rutgers and Purdue. They got Purdue and Rutgers at home, so and they're 4-4. So I had them going 4-8 to start the year. They're looking like a bowl team. They're going to be going bowling, bowling, bowling,
Bowling,
bowling.
bowling, bowling.
And then Indiana, this is the one that like they might be overlooking, strangely enough, because
Hmm.
Michigan used to own them in Big Ten East play.
Yeah.
You got to play Ohio State. That's the biggest game of the season. And then you got Oak and Bucket at the end of the year. You can't overlook Michigan State here. If you do that, there's going to be major consequences. So I'll say this. So if Michigan State wins this game, they're going to go bowling because the math's in their favor to be at 5-4, needing one more win of the next three. Like they could do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If Indiana loses this game, I may have to pull back everything I said about them because like
Hmm.
the pressure is just on them to get there. And at that point, like you're wondering, like, are you going to win your final three games? Are you just going to
Right.
go 10-2? And if you go 10-2 with your schedule, you lose to Ohio
Yeah.
State. I don't know if you make it in. You might,
No,
but I don't know.
it's going to be hard because like the strength of record will not be there. Like you will not have a true quality win on your schedule.
No. Any other thoughts about this game? But other than how Admiral Akbar is, or how do you think Antonio would feel about Admiral Akbar?
That's Bulldog for sure. There's no
Talk,
question about that. I can answer
talk.
that real quickly.
He's like, oh, but I can talk. But I can talk better than you.
Scooby
Bulldog.
Bulldog. Scooby Bulldog.
Scooby Doo.
Scooby Doo. Um, I don't have thoughts about this game. I did want to mention one other potential sort of trap game. We didn't put it in there because I think we have enough respect for South Carolina, but Texas A&M coming off the LSU game, off the LSU win, going to South Carolina, could could get a little hairy there because South Carolina's a good defense and they're going to be able to prepare for Marcel Reed for an entire week. So we'll see what that looks like. But in terms of Indiana, Michigan State, I'm sticking with the Hoosiers. I'm riding with the Hoosiers. I do not have this game in JLN. So I'm going with the Hoosiers to get the job done. I can't I understand the case for Michigan State. I helped make the case just a second ago of why Michigan State could pull this off. You need the perfect game from Michigan State. You don't need the perfect game from Indiana to win this.
Exactly, and that's why I'm picking the Hoosiers here. And I like your pick there with Texas A&M and South Carolina. I mean, it's Williams-Brice Stadium. It's hot as ass. There's roosters crowing. It sucks. This was their cross-divisional rivalry there for a while there. Prior, I think they moved. I think how do they do it? I think they moved like battle line emerged and like, okay, I guess you guys got to go play. And it's like, why? Well, okay.
But why?
The Ryan Reynolds but why rivalry.
Yes, absolutely.
I've also got a name for a Penn State Wisconsin rivalry that I'll share off air.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm taking the Aggies to win in Columbia, and I've got the Hoosiers winning in East Lansing and state capitals that aren't theirs. It's great.
I have Texas A&M South Carolina in JLN, so I will be picking that one later.
Well, I plan to have a stroke from the amount of MSG that's in this food. Yes, we are moving on to the Antonio Banderas Bowl of the week. I'm blanking right now. Where were we with Antonio last week?
Where did we go last week?
Uh,
Uh
oh yeah, it's music themed. We did music. I'm gonna pull this up. I mean, I'm gonna remember this is bad because Def Leppard, yeah, we were Carmageddon.
oh God, Carmageddon. How could we
So,
forget?
so he did make it up to the children's hospital. I think it's because I wanted to black it out of my mind because that was such a horrific event for us.
Unfortunately, yes.
So we were in the stands and we had three seats there. It was a pretty packed game, surprisingly. We didn't see Carm there, unfortunately.
No,
Uh,
I again not convinced that he knew the game was happening.
I don't think so either. But it was like after the first quarter, look up to the second quarter, we like, where's Antonio? And you're like, oh no.
I see him waving.
He's waving up there covered in Lucky Charms and Domino sugar, waving at us. And Brian Ferentz is eating a hot dog. But you saw that thing the guy with like the pumpkin helmet with like the glizzy hole, that was Brian because he didn't want to share his face. He's like, I wanted people to cheer for me while I'm eating a hot dog, but
Just
not
for
know who I am.
what?
I just don't want you to know who I am.
God.
Oh no, Dr. Grant's losing his mind right now. I don't think he's gonna come back from this. No.
Every train of thought I was having is gone now for sure.
But I guess probably the way to describe it was you took it upon yourself to do damage control because we still thought we might have seen Carm, and Carm knows me a little bit better, so I was going to stay back. But you're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go do damage control, and then I'm going to text you Bulldog if it's really bad. So you went up to the children's hospital. Somehow they let you come back in the game later. I don't know why, but probably because they knew who you are. Like, don't you know who I am?
Don't you know? I sarked him. I sarked him real good.
I just want you to know who I am. So you went up to the children's hospital, and the big thing was like, what were the kids thinking, and what was Antonio thinking, and did you say anything to Brian, or did you just ignore him?
Brian, I ate a hot dog with him in complete silence. And that's kind of how we just that's how we acknowledged one another. And then I moved on about my day. It was a very big gulps, huh? Type of moment. And then I was standing out of there because I knew I had to go deal with Antonio.
So but the kids were happy to see you, like like Hal
Yeah.
Larson at the hospital. They were really excited to see you. And one little girl came up named Cadence and said, Antonio's a bulldog. And dude, he was on all fours walking around. He also thinks a Hawkeye's a bulldog too. I'm like, dude, that's a bird. That's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, you might think we're bad at animal classification. Nothing compares to Antonio. Everything's bulldog.
Nothing compares to you, Antonio. But yes, we were able to get out of Kinnick in the children's hospital in one piece, but mostly covered in sugar. It was hot, sticky, but it wasn't really sweet from my head down to my feet. It takes a lot to get that sugar out of your hair, man. It's some of it's still in
Mhm.
there, to be honest with you. I've just given up on showering because it gets in my eyes. It's not
It
fun.
turns your hair into like rock candy, basically. So it's no good.
Slight sidetrack, because we are going to be going to the land of chilies and
Oh yes.
green chilies here is coming up. So also today's Chipotle day. So apparently I'm going to be going dressed up as that to go to Chipotle, and then we're going to make a video
Hey,
where
hell yeah.
I mispronounce Chipotle every possible way I can think of.
The Chipotle.
The Chip Hotel.
The Chipotle.
Chipotles.
My favorite, Chill Polte. Add an extra L in there.
Chipotle. Chipotle. It's Chick-fil-A's messed up brother. But anyway, we saw the Arizona State podcast shared something with me on the TikTok, and this lady is obsessed with candying her food. So basically boiling it and cooking it in like rock candy. So she candied her Chipotle burrito.
Ugh. Ugh. I'm offended personally.
It took like 3 days to harden, which made it even worse.
Oh God, no,
And you know there's like
no,
there's like cheese and sour cream in there, and that's not kosher.
nah. That's gonna end quite poorly, most likely.
Yes. I don't know if you ever watched. So the dogs that we dog sit for, the one that has the same personality as Antonio, they watch We Bare Bears on Cartoon Network.
We Bear Bears.
Yes,
I'm unfamiliar with this programming.
it's great. It's Dimitri Martin plays a polar bear named Ice Bear, and he just speaks in third person, Ice Bear.
Well, first off, love Dimitri Martin, so I'm already in.
So they have this other bear named Grizz, and he's the alpha, and he becomes best friends with the burrito. The burrito, like a giant bear-sized burrito. The burrito starts to stink, and everyone's like, "Bear, Grizz, you got to get rid of your burrito." It's like, "No, this is burrito. He's my friend."
It's my friend. Look, burritos are friends within
Yes.
a reasonable amount of time.
You can only handle this burrito in so many doses, and we can only handle Antonio in so many doses. Yes, we are going back to Albuquerque. We are going to be going to a really awful football game where the
Yep.
Wyoming Cowboys, who are 1-7, are going to play the New Mexico Lobos at Diego Pavia's outhouse. I think the Lobos are what, either 3-4 or 3-5. It's not good.
3-5.
They could still go bowling, 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 and Jay Salvell's not. So we're going here for, I think, two reasons. Mostly so Jay Salvell can apologize to me for Troy Calhoun preventing me from going to Colorado Springs.
100%. That has to be done first and foremost. And then the other reason, obviously, is well, actually, I thought of a third just now. Lobo, about as close to a bulldog as we're gonna get this season.
Yes.
So, bulldog reasons always. But then Antonio and Bronco have a special relationship. They some would say they're kindred spirits. Their love for Bob Marley, obviously, with one another, but also, the Bronco Mendenhall School of Survival. Antonio's a graduate. He boasts that quite frequently, and probably one of the reasons he's still with us today, given all the adventures he's had, quite frankly.
They met under the North Avenue Bridge, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, 100%. And like Bronco was just there for the vibes. Antonio didn't know where he was, but
No, they really share like the same taste in music. They like the same three bands. They like Bob Marley, they like Def Leppard, and they like Dave Matthews Band by just simply being in Charlottesville.
100% they've been to Charlottesville and they got infected.
They are ants marching.
Yeah, sometimes we'll just be driving with Antonio and he just in the back seat goes, bow, bow, bow,
Burr, burr, burr.
bow.
Oh yeah. Antonio, how you doing? Bulldog. Okay, bye.
Good job, buddy.
Dude, he's like he also says okay, bye, like not just on the phone when we're talking to him.
Mhm.
Because texting, I mean, we decided that like he can't really spell very well, so
No.
he does emojis, but he was that was getting out of hand, so we gave him a burner phone from a Hugh Freeze. That's why he needed some more. And now he just calls because T9 he doesn't have the opposable thumbs because he's a blow up doll.
He is a blow up doll. So texting a little hard to mash the buttons. And I mean, let's be clear, like him talking on the phone is not like the most, coherent things that we've ever heard in our entire lives.
I'm gonna leave that to myself, but there's someone we know that's kind of the same sort of thing.
I'm sure.
I don't know who you're talking about. Is it me or you or somebody else? Bulldog. But yes,
Bulldog.
um, so his first language is Spanish. Like he would know that like Lobo is wolf, but he still calls it bulldog. I think he just does this to mess with us.
I mean, I think he has bought into his own lore at this point where if it's not human but alive, it's bulldog, quite frankly. So, yeah, I don't know, like he knows what a lobo is. We've had conversations where he's thrown the word lobo around. Like he is well aware. This is a bulldog, brother. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, he knows like Lobo, Pollo, um, Cayman is I think I say gator essentially. Cayman. I think that's how you say it, whatever it is. I don't know any. I'm really not doing good on Spanish right now. That's why I got to go there because that's how like I'm going to get back to the good races with Troy Calhoun to become bilingual. Apparently, that's how you got
100%.
it. You know, I watched a little bit of Sunshine. I couldn't fly planes because I'm colorblind, even though I'm not.
But I saw a colorblind guy once, and then I couldn't drive a plane. Sucks.
Barely drive a car. But yes, anything. 'Cause I don't. I mean, I've been to Albuquerque with you and Antonio like one other time. Are we gonna go to the meth house?
Oh, we're going to the meth house. The people who live in the meth house are not the nicest people in the world. They've like put up a fence around their house, but so I'm a little worried that Antonio might get arrested trying to, throw a pizza on the roof because that's why they did that. So we'll see what happens there. Antonio has seen Breaking Bad. I'm not sure how he comprehended a second of it, but here we are. But yeah, with the other thing we might have to do is Antonio, after seeing Breaking Bad, is really excited to go to the hotel where Jesse's lady overdoses. So,
Okay.
that'll be a really morbid trip. But hey, each to own their in with Antonio.
Birthday party.
Birthday party, of course.
Yes. If you keep everything simple, life is simple for you. And that's Antonio. And the other thing is like he's really good at haggling
Hmm.
in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Like he just gets deals done. I feel like I appreciate him from like venturing away from places where he's not comfortable. Like Minneapolis. I don't think that's an Antonio place, but Snoopy. But he
Yeah.
always finds a way. He almost died in Kansas City from eating so much brisket. I mean, it's not Barcelona, it's not Fresno, it's not Florida, the whole entire aquatic outdoor amusement park that is exotic amusement park. There we go. Albuquerque and Phoenix. That's where he thrives.
No, 100%. Like he already told me that we were gonna go, we talked about going to get breakfast burritos as you do in New Mexico. And I was like, what kind of burrito are you gonna get? And he said Christmas. And I was like, yeah, that's the type of chili, but are you gonna get, you're gonna get sausage, chorizo, steak. What are you gonna go with? And he said Christmas. So I think we might just be having a man who's about to eat a red and green chili burrito, which is not gonna make for a fun car ride, I can assure you.
No, the reason like Bronco Mendenhall is essentially like his mentor. I think he might
Mhm.
actually be younger than Antonio, given the math of it all. But like the Bronco Mendenhall school of survival, like Antonio went there, he's like, I'm actor, must survive.
I must survive. It's a dogfight out there, a bulldog fight.
I will survive. Kick, bulldog. I am a survivor. Beyonce, bulldog. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
um, I'm taking New Mexico with Mackey.
I'm actually gonna go with Wyoming to pick up their second win. They played Utah State last week, a game that I watched every second of because I'm a weird person who does things of this nature. And Wyoming should have won that game. New Mexico is equally as bad of a defense. I think that they might be able to get something cooking here a little bit, Wyoming. So I'm gonna give them with the upset in Albuquerque.
Feel that. I mean, to be really 93 here, you're a creep, you're a weirdo. What the hell are we doing here? I don't belong here. God, this book is so stupid. I can't understand anything in it. Yes, we're going to just like Novocaine. I wish we were doing Radiohead today, but Bronco Mendenhall prefers Bob Marley to Radiohead. And yes, we're some Bob Marley songs, The Poet and a Prophet. We must do some reggae mod. So, okay, we got 6 songs here from Bob Marley. Let's go with Could You Be Loved? What game is that for you?
That's Vanderbilt and Auburn, and a lot of ways we can go here. So Vanderbilt, could you be loved? Like, can we actually respect that this Vanderbilt team is not just pulling off random upsets? No, this is a good football team, brother. And then Hugh Freeze, I will not elaborate, but he's always asking, "Could you be loved?" On the burner phone. That's kind of his vibe. But I'm going with Vandy. Auburn is favored in this game by a lot at Jordan Hare. Why?
But why?
Why? Vanderbilt is the better football team in this game. 100%. Vanderbilt is going to win this football game. 100%. I don't, what are we doing with Auburn here? I don't like, why? Why? That's my question.
Doesn't make any sense. I've got that game coming up a little bit later for similar reasons. Could you be loved? I've got North Carolina at Florida State. Could either
Damn
of these
it.
teams be loved after a loss?
No.
And No, the answer is no. But because I love you and I want you to be happy, I'm picking North Carolina.
Thanks, man. Get Mac Brown his first win over alma mater. We need it.
Um, and if also if Mac Brown had three little birds, what would their names be?
Mac Brown, like probably Lawrence, Taylor, and Ramses.
Vince, Colt, and Howell.
There we go.
Howell the Owl.
Owl the owl.
That's
Oh my
awesome.
God.
Who do you have for that game? Three little birds.
So for that game, that's where I had the cocktail party because Billy Napier might have to remind himself after this game and after this stretch that Florida's about to enter to end their season that every little thing's gonna be all right, brother, because Florida's gonna about to get their brains beat in. Georgia's gonna win this one by a lot. By a lot.
I've I've got the cocktail party coming up a little bit too. I've got Pitt at SMU for this because don't worry
Mm,
about a thing. Every little thing is going to be all right. It's going to be a great game, but whoever loses this game's not out of it. Like
mhm.
SMU would have one loss in ACC play. They'd have two on the year, two undefeated teams in BYU and Pitt. If Pitt loses their first loss of the year, they've lost to an ACC contender. If they beat Clemson, they've still got a shot. So that's kind of my thought with that.
Yeah.
And I am taking Pitt. It's
Okay.
too legit to Pitt. That's very 91 here. It's all 90s, man.
It's all 90s. It all comes back.
All right. So who's the next game up here? Jamming. Who's jamming?
That's Oregon and Michigan. For me, this is you know, Michigan, it's honestly okay. Let me be real why I picked this game for this song. This is the most overrated Bob Marley song of all time. One of the most overrated songs of all time. I hate this song. It is not that good. Sorry for anyone who disagrees with me, but it's just not a good song. There's no content. There's just nothing to it. Granted, kind of a staple of Bob Marley songs, but that's neither here nor there. This is the most egregious offender. And there's nothing to this game. This should have been a good game. Oregon at Michigan, hell yeah, give me that. That's what the new Big Ten was supposed to give us. And Oregon's going to come in there and dog walk them. There's no way Michigan scores in this game. There's no way that Oregon breaks a sweat in this game, quite frankly. I think Oregon dog walks all over Michigan.
They're just jamming Michigan in our face. Just so much, just the Big Ten energy of it all. I mean, this is the pretender of Bob Marley's songs. The pretenders. I almost swear that's the worst Foo Fighters song. It's like you're just drill monkey stupid. This song sucks.
Yeah,
Hellacious ass. I'm so, like,
100%.
do you like this song? Yeah, well, I don't like you. Let's start. But I've got Ohio State at Penn State, and these teams are jamming, and I hope you like jamming too. The song's about as deep as a Polar Antonio or Shallow Hal, and so is my analysis here. It's in James Franklin's head. I'm going with the Buckeyes,
Okay. Okay. I have this game coming up just next if you want to give us the next song on JLN.
and that would be the redemption song.
So that's where I have Ohio State, Penn State for one line and one line only. Well, also Redemption Song as a whole probably fits it pretty well for both of these coaches, but emancipate your mind from mental slavery. That's what James Franklin's been in. Gets into these big games, mental slavery, brother. He cannot get out of his cage to get
Do
over the
just
hump.
He cannot get out of his cage to do just fine. He's got to be down
Yeah,
because he wants it all.
100%.
He wants it all. And he can't have it all. You can't
That's
have
early
it.
2000s. We're venturing out of the 90s here a little
I went to the
bit.
late 80s too with some epic Faith No More.
That's right. Uh, I'm going with Penn State to win this game. I think
Ooh.
that I think Ryan Day is in his head. I think that Ryan Day, we talked about pressure in the first segment, first and 15 today. I think that Ryan Day is putting more pressure on himself than anyone. And I think that's when you kind of really show the cracks in Ryan Day's armor. And to a degree, I think the flip side of that is you have James Franklin, who I think has taken pressure off of himself in what he does game to game with having Andy Kotelnicki and Tom Allen on the field with him. So I think that when you combine with the success that I think Penn State's defense is going to have in this game in Happy Valley, I think Penn State gets it done.
I think that's fair. I'm really excited about this game, but not excited that it's a big noon kickoff. But I'll be covering that game at work, so that'll be fine.
Oh yeah.
Let's do it. Gus Johnson just do his best. Sean McDonough just losing his voice mid call. That's great. Uh,
Howard drops
hell,
back.
Marvelicious. He's not even on that team anymore, man.
He is in Gus's mind.
It's all Gus's mind. If we would have done the Pixies for this show, this would have been where is my mind for because I don't know
Uh,
I don't know where this is for Ryan Day or James Franklin. But so for redemption song, I've got Arizona at UCF. These teams need to win real bad.
real bad, brother.
And I'm gonna go with UCF and Gus Malzahn. Let's go, boys. Come on, let's go. Let's go. We gotta get a win here, man. I'm gonna get fired, man. What do we do here, man? I'm tired of eating bologna sandwiches. I just want to go to Waffle House.
Hell yes, brother.
Dude, his playbook is Antonio's coloring book. That's all it is. There's just run.
Just run. Just bulldog.
They just hold up here. They just hold up here on. That's what it is. It's just the
That's
picture.
right.
Yes. This is a dog podcast now. He's having a good time back there.
I have no idea what's outside, but he is thoroughly intrigued. I'm just glad he's not barking at it.
Uh, it may be his one love. And what's your one love besides the NC State podcast and these animals? What song you got for that?
That's where I got Texas A&M, South Carolina.
Sucker.
Because, one love, one heart. I believe that's what Mike Elko is hoping happens in this game, that South Carolina doesn't ruin Texas A&M's chances of making the college football playoff with a loss at Bryce Williams. That would probably be pretty bad for the Aggies. And on the same token, Shane Beamer's trying to lull Mike Elko and the Texas A&M Aggies to sleep. One love, brother. This is a fun place, a fun SEC game to play, and then they're going to hit him in the mouth. I'm going with Texas A&M. I think Texas
Yeah.
A&M is going to get it done. I don't have a lot of faith in this Gamecocks offense.
For some reason, I think Kurt Cobain was a massive Aggies fan. And that's absolutely not true. There's no way. I can't think of a person who would get a lot who'd fit in less with like Texas A&M culture.
Oh God, it would be the absolute the antithesis of fitting in. I don't know what that is, but
What would Alan Grant's be? What would be like the most like on like Dr. Alan Grant would be like
oh, he's for sure I would say I feel like he's a Michigan man. I feel like he's a Michigan man.
so the antithesis of a Michigan man is just
Antonio.
what's like a really weird Pac-12, former Pac-12 school. It's just like I can't like Dr. Alan Grant would just not go there. He would just
Oh,
be
like
like,
Oregon State.
yeah,
Oregon
there we go.
State.
There's no animals out here, just beavers, man. They're just beaving in Beef Town.
They're just beaving real hard.
I've got Vanderbilt at Auburn for this game because
Mm.
Diego Pavia's one love is to get together with Hugh Freeze and feel all right and
Hmm.
kick his ass from a hospital bed.
That's right.
And I'm obviously taking Vanderbilt because Auburn sucks.
Auburn sucks, baby. Drive your truck, though.
And stir it up. Let's stir it up to finish the program up. Who do you got for that game?
That's Pitt-SMU because no matter who wins this game, it's going to stir up the playoff conversation because it's going to stir up the ACC championship conversation because whoever wins this game is still going to be undefeated. And depending on who it is, could create some trouble for Clemson, could create some trouble for Miami down the stretch. And, who knows how the tiebreakers work out in that situation. But going with SMU to win this one, fighting you again on this one. But I think that the Holstein injury really worries me for this one because SMU's defense is damn good. And if you're rolling with either a less than 100% Holstein or a backup quarterback, I trust SMU's depth at quarterback to be able to get this done a little bit more effectively.
I feel that. I'm excited for that game too, and
Hmm. Oh,
I'm gonna
absolutely.
finish. I'm gonna finish this up with a cocktail party because you got stirred up as in your drink.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, I'm picking Georgia to win here because they're gonna start up, stir up the pot. It's like, okay, is Billy Napier gonna get fired? Okay,
Yeah.
Kirby just gaslighting his people because them dogs is hell, don't they?
Them dogs as hell, don't they? He's going to be telling them that everyone picked Florida to win this game or something like that.
If you lose, you're not coming home. We're gonna feed you to the Gators.
You're going to have to swim home. But we live on land, like inland. It doesn't matter. You're swimming home,
You
brother.
have to, here's the path. You go out of the St. John's into the Atlantic. And then I think you got to go into the Savannah River or somehow whatever you get to Oconee River. I don't even know where that is, but that's what you do. There's dams there. I don't care. You've had a bye week to figure it out. Just do it.
You wouldn't have to swim over a dam if you could beat the damn gators.
This was episode 122 of Fall Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, not Kurt Cobain, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams, not Dr. Alan Grant, at the Sizzle20. Be sure to read all of our work on fanside.com. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. They didn't have 5-star reviews back in 1993, but please give us one there on Apple. That would be really great. 6-star review. If you want to talk about what you're wearing for Halloween, we'll bring it up on the show, even though nobody knows you. But we want to know what the starters are wearing. We want to know if you're dressing up as Mega Man, a ghost, Courtney Love, a dinosaur, Grim Reaper for the 6th year in a row, or Jeff Spicoli. The one time I got pneumonia at 13, that ended Halloween for me.
Or if you dress up as the Pop-Tart Bowl mascot, really tell us. We really want to hear that.
Yes. All right. I gotta say, we gotta finish with this. So, what was the best worst costume you had as a kid growing up? Like, you remember, like, this was a great one, this was bad, or best or
I legitimately do not remember a lot of my costumes when I was a kid. I do remember one when I was in college when I dressed up as Mick Foley. It's probably my
yes.
best costume of all time.
Um, it's like I said, I was the Grim Reaper for like 4 years in a row. I just basically put this like hood on. That's what I was from like fourth grade to seventh grade or something like that. Um, I think the best costume I ever had was for work. I dressed up as Gene from a Wet Hot American Summer. I carried around a thing of vegetables. I was
Yes.
also Mr. McGiblets from the League with the costume.
Love that.
I've dressed up as the dude a couple of times with a little bit shorter hair. It's pretty far out, man. Worst costume I ever had was I was a werewolf and I had like the rubber mask on and it
Mm.
irritated my skin. It smelled really bad. I was sweating and I had to go home after like 20 minutes.
Rubber masks are tough. They're real tough. I've had a strict no rubber mask policy for quite some time.
Yeah, don't do that. Rubbers are stupid.
No, it's bad.
And top three Halloween candies and what's the worst?
Ooh, top three Halloween candies. Okay. I've been on a real nerds gummy clusters kick. I'll tell you,
Yeah.
I've been just slamming those. And since I've seen the Halloween bags of those, I'm going to put those number one. Number two, got to go classic Reese's egg, man. I love a Reese's egg. Chocolate peanut butter, I'm a big fan. Can't really go wrong with it. Three, and I know this is a controversial take. I love candy corn. I absolutely love
Yeah.
candy corn. So I literally can't buy candy corn because I'll just sit down and eat the whole bag. I'm a candy guy, so like that does it for me. Worst candy, and this is outside of just Halloween. You can take Almond Joy and Mounds and shove them up your ass because they're horrible. They're absolutely terrible.
So you like Mike Leach's favorite candy, the Nerds clusters, and you hate his other favorite candy, which is almond joy.
Yep.
I do enjoy almond joy and mounds and stuff. I like coconut. It's fine. I'm a little nuts
I'm an
too.
anti-coconut guy. I
Yeah,
can't do it with coconut.
no, it's too bad. Number one for me, just anything Kit Kat. I just like the texture of the
Mm.
chocolate. I can just devour those. It used to be number two used to be Reese's, but I've decided, to be a little more alternative. I would say that like I've really been. What is another one? I really enjoy me. The Nerds clusters are pretty damn
They're
good.
so good, dude.
And I also just like the flavored Tootsie Rolls, like the lemons or vanilla, raspberry, anything
Dude,
like that.
vanilla is one of my favorite candies of all time. They only release the vanilla around Christmas though, but little hot tip for the starters out there. Target always has the vanilla Tootsie Rolls in stock. You're set.
I mean, I love Edgewood Target was having that place is interesting. I go there every time thinking it's not going to be that bad. It's always worse than I expected.
It's not going to be that bad. Oh, it was worse than that bad.
They don't have anything. It's like, well, yeah, I guess you're not gonna like get shampoo today, so too bad, brother.
Tough.
Uh, but a three-way tie for the worst. So, and again, I will probably eat them. Um, Three Musketeers is just lame Milky Way. It's not.
Oh, I love a Three Musketeers.
Nah,
Oh,
I want the caramel in there. It's just, I
Milky
want,
Ways are very good too, so I can't argue.
yeah. Milk Duds, they get stuck in my teeth.
That's a good
That's
one.
kind of a problem for me. And then the other one, that's just, it's too much for me. Sometimes it's all about the teeth thing. Like it's like it's hit or miss. Like sometimes bottle caps and sprees and Smarties are good, and
Mm,
sometimes it's like my teeth hurt and I can't eat them anymore.
that's
That's
fair.
it's all about the teeth. And
No, milk duds have a great flavor, but yeah, the texture's too much. Like you're doing too much, man. It's like chewing on like old glue.
what do you think of this?
What do you think of this?
I can't believe we dressed up. I got used to you looking like this for a while.
I mean, honestly, like this isn't like the furthest, like minus the bandana, not the furthest thing from something I would actually wear. So
No, I mean the shirt's part of my wardrobe.
yeah.
That's how the beautiful part about Halloween is when you've got facial hair, you can't always like and long hair, it's hard to figure out a costume. It's like so many things are off the table. It's
Oh,
unfortunate.
100%. 100%. Unless you're wearing a wig, like a really good wig. But yeah.
I did dress up as Slash for a social once and
Oh, yeah.
just drank nothing but Jack Daniels and blacked out at like 10 o'clock.
As one does. As one does.
That sweet child of mine. The wig is in the was in the floor of some bar somewhere, and it's never to be seen before it's in a landfill now.
The worst Halloween experience I had in college was I dressed up as Rocky in
Oh
like the
yeah.
sweats with like everything going on. And like this is before my hair was super grown out. So like I could pull off the Rocky hair a little bit and go as Rocky. I lost my phone and my wallet at the bar. And I say lost, it got stolen because it was nowhere to ever be seen again. And I'm like not in, the perfect state of mind trying to call my bank from someone else's phone. And they're like, what's your account number? I'm like, brother, do you think I have an answer to that? I lost my phone drunk at a bar dressed as Rocky.
I'm an undercover agent.
Exactly.
I will say this. Apparently, Keanu Reeves like learned jujitsu for like the Matrix and like John Wick. He also learned how to play quarterback there for the replacements, and the Ravens wanted him to try out because he had really good footwork and was pretty athletic.
Dude, I mean, certain points of Ravens history would have made sense.
He could have won a Super Bowl the 2000 defense.
Shouts to Trent Dilfer.
This is what Trent Dilfer is saying, coaching the UAB Blazers. Liberate tutte me inferis. And this is false start.